Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. We're not doing one on Wednesday, so guess what? We're doing it tonight. And glad to have everybody with us. Candy Evelyn's going to sit in a little bit tonight on a couple segments. George Acorn, my partner on this incredible program for 40 some odd years, who's counting except us, right, George? And
Yes.
and the new guy on the block, Rod Peterson, making his second Sports Exchange appearance. Okay, we did it with the Canadian Football League, and he's going to have a couple of football topics that he can relate to his people back in Canada. Give you an update of what we're going to be doing today. Hello, Joshua Dora. What's going on, Rod? You tell him. All right, there you go. We're going to talk first. The first topic and the last one will be the Miami Hurricanes, and I'll have four NHL topics in between. Candy and I obviously saw the Miami Hurricanes defeat Wake Forest by a score of 42-14. So Cam Ward had a nice night. In fact, Candy, why don't you give everybody an overview about what we saw? I know Joshua want to get to your Thanksgiving, but we'll get to that in a moment. But Candy, give everybody an overview of what we saw from Cam on Saturday night.
So the game started out, went back and forth, right? First drives. I thought for a minute there it was going to maybe be a shutout, but then the defense, Miami's defense came to play and they picked up and they ran with it and they held them after that. Cam had in his standard, a decent night, probably not like he would say not his best yet, but they did really well. It was senior night. It was emotional night. Before the game, all the seniors were on the PA. They were announced and they came out, and Mario Cristobal, the head coach, gave each of them a little talk, a little hug. Then they walked a little further. They went and got a bouquet of flowers, and then they walked onto the field about the 50-yard line where they had their parents or whoever they wanted on the field with them. And so they walked over there, and so they shared a nice moment. So that was pretty cool considering it was senior night.
All right, let me give some stats out there for those of you that were not at the game. Ward was actually 27 of 38 for 280 yards. He had a touchdown, but the team amassed, get this, 508 yards. You talk about the rushing numbers, they were incredible. And obviously, the Canes, when you talk about a season record, that's unbelievable. Cam Ward did with his, let's see, his total yards for the year what was it, 34?
No,
I'm trying to remember what those
37-74.
Okay, well, there you go. Thanks, George, for filling in. So he broke the Canes single season record with those numbers. So bear in mind,
which is really impressive considering all the Hall of Fame quarterbacks that Miami has produced.
Right. Well, you got Jim Kelly to name a few, Bernie Kosar, and so forth. Candy, why don't you go ahead and play the sound? I asked Cam Ward about that night, and shoot it up there, Candy.
Cam, you saw a lot. The team amassed over 500 yards. How does it feel to have that much production on your offense where you can spread it out the way you're able? You can throw it to anybody you want or hand it off to anybody. This is an explosive offense where you got kind of set up.
It means a lot to have guys like that in the running back room. J. Lyle, Fletch, Dame, the receiving core, they did their job today. They blocked Will on the perimeter all day. But I think just us going forward is that we can't have days like this. We still yet to play our best game, and we got one game left. So the clock's ran out. We got to lock in. We just got to do the little things. That's something that we didn't do the entire stretch of the game. The pick I had is a bad pick. I should have just dirtied on the screen. So, it comes a time, a point where we have to truly lock in. And, we got to do that this week's last game of the year. So we got to go all out.
Okay, that's what I asked him about the balance in terms of the running backs as well as the receivers. Rod, obviously you cover football with the Canadian Football League. I know the Canadian Football League would salivate to get a talent of this nature. There's no question he's going to be a top-tier talent anyways. But we'll get to the comments in a few moments, Candy. I want to focus on the Canes here. So please, everybody in the chat room, be patient. This is important stuff we're talking about with the Miami Hurricanes. But Cam Ward, I mean, I've watched him all year, so I come to expect all the greatness that this guy goes out there and provides. Rod, some thoughts about what you heard from that soundbite.
I watched most of the game. I think it was a 7-point game in the third quarter, was it not? And one thing that I think the Hurricanes are doing, I don't know about their competition in this college football playoff, like the Texas is. The Texas is. I think it's going to be Miami Texas final if it works out that way, national championship. But they were using a 2-pronged running back approach and just pounding the Wake Forest defense. Where by the fourth quarter they didn't have anything left to stand up for them. And you mentioned the CFL would be salivating over Cam Ward. No doubt they are. He reminds me a lot of Warren Moon, who led the Edmonton Eskimos to 5 consecutive Grey Cup championships in the early 80s. But I don't think this guy spends a day in frigid Canada, man. He's a Heisman favorite, for sure, a candidate. We not say a favorite. He's going to be a star in the NFL from what I can see.
George.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments. I think it's very exciting how the Miami football program has come alive this year. Obviously, Cam has got several years in his back pocket of experience at multiple schools. But I'll tell you what, this kid really has it all together in my mind. Even your answer, the answer he gave, Scott, to your question, shows how calm he is and how he's not being selfish at all. He's distributing. He knows that there's more work to be done. He's distributing the ball, like you said. Jordan Lyle, 115 yards in that game. Martinez, 63. You got Fletcher with 55 yards plus. You got Ward's 280 yards in the air. So, I mean, yeah, this is a very potent attack, multi-dimensional type of attack with both running and receiving. Miami's got such an explosive offense here, and it's all centered around Ward.
George, I'm glad you brought up Jordan Lyle. We don't have him on tonight in terms of our soundbite, but I had an opportunity to ask him a question. One of the most polite guys on the planet. They had a drive where he was able to get all 43 yards on that drive from the runs all the way to the touchdown. And I called it the Lyle drive, and this kid was smiling from here all the way to the most northern part of Canada. But these are pleasant kids. They're students, everybody. And, Cam Ward, even keeled. He even mentioned earlier in the press conference, well, we tasted defeat. We didn't like it. Sometimes when you lose a game, it isn't the worst thing on the planet. You get humbled. You're not as good as you think you are. Then you come back and you bounce back. And that's what happened. Candy, any observations? You were there with me.
It's always exciting to be there at Hard Rock Stadium. I was on the field taking pictures. It's cool to see someone like Cam because he's always striving for better. Even if he had a good game, he's always striving for better, always brings it real, gives credit to everybody, gives credit to his O-line. Like, if he didn't have an O-line, he wouldn't have time to pass. And he's extremely hard on himself, too. But I thought they played well. I honestly, I think they have another level in them that they haven't attained yet. And I'm hoping we see it. It might take the championship game for it to come out, but he has a lot of good weapons. He has Xavier Restrepo, who has the most yards, I think, in Hurricanes history. He has, running game. He has receivers. He has Colby Young. And he passes it around. It's not like he has, you look at some of the NFL and you really see one or two receivers mainly, and he really spreads it around, gives it to everybody. It's a nice offense to watch, and especially since we saw the last couple years where they weren't as high-powered offense, and it wasn't the same Hurricanes. And I think college football is better when Miami Hurricanes are better. And I believe you had somebody on the Inside the Pigskin that actually said that quote at line. That was Mel Farr's, I believe, quote.
All right, let me just say this, and I know we have hockey top to get to, and then one more on the Canes back end, but this is extremely important stuff. This season from Miami has reminded me of the Muhammad Ali George Foreman fight. Why? Because Miami Hurricanes usually use a rope-a-dope. and they ultimately wear their opponent down and they blow them out in the fourth quarter. And this reminds me of what Muhammad Ali did actually in the 8th round. I wanted to ask that during the media availability, but my instinct said don't do it because a lot of the people in that room probably didn't hear of it. It wasn't the right question to ask after a game. It would be the right question to ask on a Monday when Coach Cristobal was able to address it with less of us there. But I have another good question that I talked about, and I'll tip you a little bit on it, but nobody has to comment. Then we'll get to the chat room with their comments about Thanksgiving and hockey, and we'll proceed with the rest of the show.
One last thing, Scott. Wake Forest head coach Dave Clawson, he said part of it with Miami is that they make so many explosive plays, and Cam Ward is such a gifted, talented quarterback. We just had to limit the amount of explosives they had. So he even that coming from a coach saying he's so gifted and talented from the opposing coach.
That's a tribute. That is a tribute to him then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell you, I love working with Mario Cristobal. It's unbelievable. All right, let's go to the chat room. I know Joshua Door's waiting patiently. All right, this is an easy one for the guy. Yes, I'll permit this one. There's nothing wrong with that. Question for the panel. What's everyone's favorite Thanksgiving food? What's anyone's least favorite? I've always liked the stuffing and the cranberries. Do I have any favorites? A least? No, I don't have a least favorite. But stuffing and cranberry to me are good. Turkey's fine too. All right, go ahead.
I'll go along with Scott's. Plus the gravy. Got to have good gravy. And the better the gravy, the better the turkey it tastes for me. But I don't have a least favorite either, Scott.
Yeah. I mean, if I want to make an idiot out of myself, I suppose I can do it. Once upon a time, I went out to Kansas City to see a buddy of mine, and we didn't know how to make a turkey, so we broiled it. We could have gone ahead and taken baskets with that stupid bird, but that's beside the point. It's safe to say that there are no leftovers, and I never did it again. And then again, I had the luxury of covering a lot of Lions Thanksgiving games, and the Lions have had a lot of practice making turkeys. Had to get it out there because there's an LOL waiting from somebody out there. Rod, you're here a little bit. What do you find yourself here looking at as a favorite part of a Thanksgiving spread?
We've started a tradition of Thanksgiving, and that's going to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. We'll be doing it again this week. They do a $40 or $44 third Thanksgiving meal. And my favorite of that is the sweet potato dish that they have the brown sugar on it. Oh, my God. They actually serve it year round, but they do it a special dish for Thanksgiving at Ruth's Chris. So that's my favorite, and my least favorite would be Brussels sprouts. And again, that's not just a Thanksgiving thing. That's everyday thing. When that gets passed to me, it's a quick no. But normally it's Ruth's Chris, sweet potato, whatever the hell. Oh, my God, is it good.
I'm going to tell you, if you don't want to cook, Cracker Barrel's always been a favorite place of mine. I'll tell you that. And of course, we went to Duffy's one year with Cracker Barrel's unbelievable on the road. All right, Candy, you can give them our plans for this Thursday if we're not with my dad, and then you can answer this question too.
Well, I think our plans are, we're talking about going to a Chinese hibachi place that has all you can eat. They're open. So, but my favorite Thanksgiving food would be my grandma's mashed potatoes or her sweet potato casserole. Both of those are very good. My least favorite probably is cranberries.
Ooh. Oh. That's fighting words. Fighting words.
Yeah, they are fighting words.
No, because I don't like them doesn't mean I won't have them. If I were making dinner here, if it's Scott's favorite, I would have them for him, and I would have my favorites. So that's what Thanksgiving is all about.
Okay. All right, let's go to another one of Joshua's comments. Rob, what did you think of that goalie interference call Saturday? Thought it was a little soft.
That was, you guys would have been probably coming home from the Hurricanes game. You missed it. The Panthers, what is it? They've lost 3 in a row. I think 5 of 6 going into tonight's game against Washington. And that was a pretty critical point of the game. What it was, guys, was Matthew Tkachuk was standing, and Joshua, you were there, just inside the lip of the blue paint of the crease. And I think he did interrupt Colorado goalie Alexander Gorgiev. And I tell you every week, you guys, I'm a goalie guy, but gosh, I loathe the officiating discussions in any sport, because a goalie interference is not black and white, really. It's become a gray call, and you can sit and argue it forever. So they want to bitch about the officiating and the call that was the goal that was taken away. Guys, in that game, the Panthers scored 52 seconds in, thought it was going to be easy, and quit playing. So I got Panthers fans writing me saying, "What's wrong with the Panthers? I think it's the goaltending. I think it's that." I said, they need to get their head out of their ass. This Stanley Cup hangover was delayed until November. And now they think they're all that. And they forgot how they won a Stanley Cup last year. So it's nothing other than that as far as I'm concerned.
So there you go, Joshua. You have your answer. All right. Hey, Pensman, hey, everybody. Glad to have Pensman. He's one of our newest contributors, Rod, on the show. He comes on the Wednesday edition of the Sports Exchange, and he also does a wonderful job with Candy, Evelyn, Jeremy, Ballrick, and Ralph Williams on Thursday night. So, so as we continue to go ahead, and I'd like to see Xavier Restrepo on the show. The best case you have there, Joshua, is go to our YouTube channel. There's plenty of sound on him. Question for Rod. Do you celebrate Canadian, American, or both Thanksgivings?
Why wouldn't I celebrate both? And as a matter of fact, the Canadian Thanksgiving is the second weekend of October, and we always go to the Keys for it because there's nobody there, no lineups, hotels are cheap because it's Canadian Thanksgiving. Nobody down here celebrating it. And then now we're doing the Ruth's Chris thing on U.S. Thanksgiving. So we get both. It's awesome.
Very good. Okay. All right. Well, you know what? I got a good one from D. Lowe's. I'm going to put this one up there. I tuned in to Pensman Live on South Florida Tribune for his coverage of IU versus Ohio game. Talented young man, you have covering for you, Scott. Thank you, D. Lowe's. We appreciate that. I've known Pensman a while, and I wouldn't have brought him on if I didn't feel he was good, but this guy is definitely the real deal for sure. And as I said, Josh, you want to see Xavier Restrepo? I've had some good one-on-ones with him in the past. Check South Florida Tribune YouTube channel for it. We'll go through the chat room, and then we're going to go ahead and get to some of the other topics. So Pensman says, where would you like to see Cam go in the NFL? Not any of the New York teams, I'll tell you that much. Personally, I think he could go to Seattle if they could find a way to swing it, because he played at Washington State before, but it's anybody's guess. Not Chicago. Caleb Williams has been, unfortunately, if they keep what they're going, they're going to end up being ruined. So let's keep it rolling. Rod, would you like to see Knights start more games this year?
I think they're doing it just right. Rob Talos is the goaltending coach for the Panthers. He's Roberto Luongo's best friend. And they start Spencer Knight like 1 every 7 games or something. I think it's working out just fine. I know we're all jumping around here, but on that Cam Ward topic,
yeah.
Listen, Shadur Sanders is rated. Like, are you believing these mock drafts right now this year for what we're seeing for quarterbacks? What a putrid first round for quarterbacks in the NFL.
Oh, that's a good point. All right, we'll continue. We'll move the show along a little bit. Candy will do a station break after the third segment. The NHL is considering holding an outdoor game in Mexico City. We'll start off with you, Rob. What do you think of that?
Next. How about Florida first, playing in Lone Depot Park? That's what we all want to see, or at the very least, Raymond James, before even Mexico City. I've heard it. This goes back to actually last summer when I first heard this rumor, but I would way put Florida ahead of that. This is where your fans are. I don't know why if there's any fans this far south, it's Florida, not Mexico. Sorry, guys, but that drives me nuts. I don't like the idea.
Okay, no, it's okay. You're telling your opinion. I value your opinions immensely. That's all right. Or Joshua Dorsey, Hard Rock Stadium. They hold everything out there. Why not an outdoor game? So, all right, George, what are your thoughts about Mexico City?
No, I'm not in favor of it at all. And I don't even know how they would do that with the temperatures being possibly too high. And that could be why they don't bring the game to Florida either. I'm not sure how far advanced they are. The guys that do a great job. I mean, there's no question about it. The Stadium Series and the Winter Classic, they do a great job. But now you see what they're doing. They're going back to places a second time now. Fenway Park, Wrigley Field. I mean, pretty soon they're going to, run out of spots. But I agree with you, Rod. Certainly, I would look more at the situation in Florida, Arizona. Well, not Arizona anymore. I'm sorry, they're already moved. But I would rather have it looked at it in those cities as well before you go somewhere international. I mean, Canada's fine, but they don't even want to do Winter Classics in Canada. They have that other series, right?
Heritage Classics, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Heritage Classic in Canada. So, but no, thumbs down for me, Scott and Rod, on Mexico City at this time.
Okay, Kate, you got a couple good comments from Joshua Dorr and D. Lowe's in there. We'll put them up. I think they're really valid to what we're talking about. We already mentioned Hard Rock Stadium. Go South, Candy. Who cares? And who in Mexico cares about hockey? Nobody on this panel, anyways. I will boycott the NHL if they play in Mexico City. Well, go ahead, but I think it's just something. D. Lowe's a far-fetched idea, and when I say far, I say far. Okay. Now we'll talk about a place that could hold an outdoor game. But this is an interesting story. This is the time of the year where we talk about Christmas and all the giving and all that business. So get this. Fan-friendly new concession prices in Utah starting with the 24-25 season. Get this. $2 for a bottle of water. $3 for a box of popcorn. $3 for nachos. $3 for hot dogs. $3 for Farr's ice cream. No relation to Mel Farr, by the way. So what do you think, Rod? Those are pretty good prices.
Yeah, that's like anything. Sure. Now, what are they going to jump to next year? It's all designed to get people into the arena. I can't believe they even have a tough time selling tickets in Salt Lake City, but it's to get them into the arena. And then next year, they're going to jump up to, I was in Vancouver 2 weeks ago, as you guys know, for the Grey Cup. We went to Vancouver Canucks, Chicago Blackhawks, $21 for an alcoholic drink, which, as you know, I don't drink, but I bought my buddy's tab. And yeah, so you just wait. Sounds good now. For how long?
Well, bear in mind, Rod, they're renovating the Delta Center. I think that's what it's called. I'm not worried about it for hockey this year. They'll bring it up to accommodate hockey next year. So they're doing the best they can to try to get people in the building to get them interesting. But the thing is, they're also watching a doormat franchise that was a year ago, the Arizona Coyotes, and they were a bad hockey team. So you knew that you were moving the Arizona Coyotes to Utah. You got to do anything you can to generate interest. A 5,000 seat stadium was what the Coyotes ended up leaving. And I believe, as I understand, I think it's about 12,000. They should probably get up to 16, 17 a year from now. I like the idea for the first year. It's inevitable it'll go up, but there's no better time of the year to bring it up than this time of the year when everybody's in a jovial mode. Right, George? Some thoughts. You could only wish Little Caesars Arena could get that cheap.
Yeah, that would be. Now that would be a miracle on ice. Pardon the French, the expression, but no, I know exactly what they're doing, and like you said, they're trying to attract fans. They're trying to build that fan base. They're 8-10-3 this year. 19 points they have. Utah, but yeah, it's certainly looked at as a gimmick, and a gimmick in a sense of rewarding the folks that come to the games. Ticket prices are obviously a lot higher than concession prices, but that is a rarity in the NHL, as you know, that the prices being that low for any of those food staples or concessions. But I'm telling you, like Rod said, oh, watch it. It's going to go up. It's going to go up starting next season. But, you know, to those fans, I say enjoy it while it lasts as far as the prices go. And yeah, it is a Christmas present in a sense. I agree.
Okay. I want to stay with the Utah Hockey Club for a moment because this was interesting, but anybody that's ever been to Toronto could appreciate what I'm about to tell you. The Utah Hockey Club was stuck in Toronto traffic. And I repeat, Toronto traffic, and walked to the stadium's, I believe it's Scotia Bank Arena, I believe it is, Rod. They jumped off the bus and walked to the stadium, excuse me, and it was only a couple blocks away. Get this, the Nylander brothers ended up taking the subway to the game. Toronto did win 3-2, but what are your thoughts, Rod? You think about it. Toronto traffic, we know, is brutal, and a bus stuck in traffic is tough. They all get off a few blocks away. They go to the arena, and then two take the subway. Is this one of the most rare, crazy things you've ever seen, Rod?
It's just starting to happen this year. Yeah, Toronto traffic, if you haven't been there, is some of the worst in North America. But I can't believe we don't hear more stories of broadcasters, players I was, what the heck was it? It was last spring. Spring training was going on here in Florida, and one of the TV crew was racing upstairs. He was umping a spring training game in Port St. Lucie or something, and raced down. He had to work the hockey game for the Panthers that night, all because of crazy traffic. I'm shocked that we don't hear more. A similar thing happened in Calgary on Saturday. Travis Boyd was making his Minnesota Wild debut. He couldn't get to the arena through traffic. Same thing. It was a Saturday afternoon game. He jumped out with the team services guy and ran to the rink. George, I don't know what it's like in downtown Detroit, but I'm just shocked we don't hear more. These Panthers guys, they tell me they go to the arena in like mid-afternoon. That's the broadcasters, the players, certainly the staff, to avoid that snarl of sawgrass.
Well, look at this way, Rod. You heard it tonight from me. I told you I'm always looking for different stuff, and this one was just too good to pass up.
Yeah.
Let alone the fact that it brought the Utah Hockey Club's concessions. So you went from peak to pits, meaning traffic. I'm seriously, really? But yeah, I mean, I'll look for any story as crazy as it may be. But I was in Toronto traffic myself earlier in the year. I took Candy there to see the Blue Jays game, and then we waited to drive out to Niagara Falls and saw that. But I gave her a pretty good drive. It was definitely stuck in traffic, but we did make it to Maple Leaf Gardens out there, and I love the way that they ended up redoing the stadium and repurposing it for good stuff. But staying with Toronto traffic, yeah, I mean, when the Nylander brothers go ahead and take the subway and the rest of the team jumps off the bus, albeit a couple blocks away, folks, that's Toronto's traffic. But it's a great city anyways. You got the CN Tower there. And you know what, Rod? I agree with you. I wish there were more stories like this, but at least we got
I'm
one
just shocked.
tonight.
I'm shocked there aren't more, but I'm sorry. But Dwayne, you guys, maybe it's not a big story to sports fans or Torontonians, but a lot of the broadcasters and players and coaches take the train. Dwayne Casey, when he coached the Raptors, somebody took a photo or a video of him put on social media. He was carrying his suit coat in a garment bag. Dwayne Casey, I think he's with the Pistons. Is he still, George?
Yes,
And
yes.
yeah, and the people riding with him were like, "Why are you taking the train, Coach Casey?" He's like, "Why wouldn't I? I know what time I'm going to get to the game." Right? So,
well, actually, Don Mattingly does go ahead and walk over to the baseball place because he obviously was smart enough to get a place right next door. So Don told me that when we were hanging out on the field. So, but obviously the Toronto traffic of the Leafs and the Utah Hockey Club. Bear in mind, like I said, Toronto won the game 3-2, and this is the first time that these two clubs have ever faced each other. You can rest assured that Utah will definitely be a bit more prepared when they talk about it again. All right, George, go ahead.
Well, you were asking earlier, Rod. Detroit, it's great having all three stadiums / arenas in a downtown area, but it is a traffic nightmare. And plus, we have several big entertainment concert halls in that same area. So, yeah, those weekends there in Detroit are really brutal. I can relate to that for sure. The lines are long to get through the traffic, especially when the Lions are playing. They're selling out the 64,000 people or whatever every week that they play a home game. As far as Toronto goes, it's been way too long since I've been there, so I'm not familiar with the traffic. I wouldn't be a good person to ask on that, but that is very creative. And that has happened before, I know, in other sports or other people. I mean, I once had to catch a plane in Chicago at Midway Airport. Oh, my gosh. I got a foreign-speaking taxi driver, and I thought we were going to die. Going through red lights, it was just horrible. Luckily, we didn't get hit. But the thing about the traffic, though, is, the teams, the announcers, the critical people, the officials have to get there on time, the refs and all that, because, just like any sport, I mean, these are critical components of the game that's going to be played. So that is really, really sad, though, when you hear the teams having to do that, because that's a nightmare. And obviously they want to get there on time and warm up and do all the things they got to do and tape their sticks and all the other stuff that goes into getting ready for a game. It's just incredibly funny to a certain degree, but it is serious stuff when the teams themselves run into that kind of hassle.
All right, well, Joshua Dore has the final word on the topic, going to station break after that. And we'll talk about American Bank traffic has definitely gotten worse with more people going to the games. but still not too bad at all. Well, it's a good problem to have, Joshua Dora. Bear in mind that they may have that problem, and when it comes to the playoffs, they can go ahead and jack the prices up for parking as well. But it's a good problem if you're winning, then you obviously will get more traffic because you get more people in the stand. But still a relative comment to what we were talking about, Joshua Dore. But one thing that's more relative is we're going to Candy Emily for a station break. Go ahead, Candy.
You are listening to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. If you see that red subscribe button, that means you have not subscribed to us. I honestly don't know why you wouldn't have by now. But hey, hit it, like us, share us with all your friends and family. Monday nights, typically we talk baseball. Tuesday nights, we talk football. Wednesday and Thursday nights, you never know what we're going to be talking about, except Thursday nights on Fire Up Florida, we always talk hockey. On Wednesdays on nofilter.net, we talk the Motor City Mad Mouth show. So we typically talk about Motor City. And then the South Florida Tribune Publishing Company, we published a book. And who wrote the book? George wrote the foreword, but Scott, your host, Motor City Mad Mouth Morgenroth, wrote the book. Talks about Scott's 40 plus years in the media business and how the media has changed. Old school media versus new school media. Get your copy today. And better yet, it's the time to gift giving. So buy your copies for all your friends and family. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Apple, and Google Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where you can find a link to the book. You can find a link to our merchandise store. But more important, also, all three of these fine gentlemen write for it. So go to the website, read what they have written, and, you know, you can glance at a couple of pictures. Someone took some of those, you know. But if you like to listen to podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, you can find us. If you want to advertise or sponsor any one of our shows, call Scott 954-304-4941. If you want to be a guest on one of these shows, or you want us to cover a particular topic, please email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Back to you guys.
Actually, you know, Candy, D-Lowe's has a question for Candy during the station break. Will South Florida Tribune Publishing Company be doing a Black Friday sale in the book? I don't know about that.
We won't this time, only because Amazon has it, and so I don't think we're going to have a sale on it, but it's not high priced. It's priced just right. Go get your copy today.
There you go, D-Lowe's. Got it up there. All right, a few more things I want to get around to. Number one, this was an easy one. In October, get this, Ivan scores his first NHL goal. Have you ever seen anybody with the first and last name being the same, and now he's made himself history in the NHL by scoring? Ivan, people, remember this. You only heard it on the Sports Exchange. George, what are your thoughts about Ivan?
Ivan. Wow, that is very unique, Scott. You're coming with some real good ones tonight, as you always do. No, I can't say I have heard of that. I mean, there's been people that I've run into. Their name might be George, but as far as sports goes, I can't recall anybody. But that is really, really interesting. I wish the kid good luck, and obviously more luck than bad luck. I mean, with a name like that, that's crazy, man. That's crazy, but I love it. I think it's great. Anytime I hear a story like that.
Penman says he's never heard of it. All right, Rob, what are your thoughts about Ivan? You going to get him on a guest on the Rod Peterson show? You won't have. It won't be hard to remember his name.
Unlikely, but we were talking about or watching the highlights the other night, and I turned to Serena and I said, "Can you believe this? The guy's got two last names or two first names." And she goes, "Yeah, he played in the World Juniors. We were there. Don't you remember?" And I'm like, I would think I would remember that. But he's Czech, right? I think he's Czech. I guess he played for the Czechs at the World Juniors, and we were there. I don't remember it.
Guess what? He's on your show tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Just a reminder.
Thanks for lining that up.
Oh, I don't. Anytime, Rod. Anytime, buddy. All right. Well, a couple more things to get to. One more hockey topic that we're going back to the Miami Hurricanes. Get this: a 590-day difference with Jim Montgomery on April 9th, 2023. He clinches the winningest season in NHL history. November 19th, 2024. He's fired. Let's talk about the news of Jim Montgomery. Let me tell you, when Boston Bruins coaches get fired, they land jobs quickly. But here you got Boston Bruins fired head coach Jim Montgomery, replaced him with Joe Sacco. Jim was 8-9-3 when dismissed. His record with the Bruins was 120, 41, and 23. It didn't take long for Montgomery to land and find work, because the St. Louis Blues fired Drew Bannister. Montgomery got a 5-year deal. So as I mentioned to you before, the last two Bruins coaches, Bruce Cassidy obviously went to Las Vegas, won a Stanley Cup championship. He was 245, 108, and 46. First of all, George, some thoughts about Jim Montgomery.
I like him. I mean, he's a good coach. I think what you're seeing here is obviously a bit of panic, especially what I call elite teams in the league. And you know this, Rod and Scott. I mean, if you're coaching one of these great teams that we all look up to, not we all, but I mean, the hockey world, let's say, looks up to. And St. Louis is not really there, but they've been pretty good, let's face it, for several years now. So you're seeing teams like Boston and St. Louis, firing and hiring a new guy. But that is kind of cool that Montgomery gets fired, and 5 days later,
Right.
they replaced Drew Bannister with Montgomery. I think it's a panic move. I think some of these owners and these general managers are panicking. There's a lot of scuttlebutt in Detroit, as we know, about Lalonde, and if Stevie Y is going to maybe, replace him. But I'm telling you, it's just a typical move in pro sports. Fire the coach. Don't get me wrong. If there's something really, really bad going on, you might have to do that. But I like Jim Montgomery. I'm glad he landed real quickly, and I'm not a huge fan of Bannister, but maybe he'll find a home, if not this season, next season as well.
Okay, Rod, what are your thoughts about Jim Montgomery? All he lasted was 5 days on the unemployment line.
Well, I'm like George. I'm a big Jim Montgomery fan for different reasons. He's a person in recovery like myself, and he's been very open with his story, and it's been a successful story. Number one. Number two, it seemed completely out of the blue, but I was doing more digging on it today. The general manager of the Blues is Doug Armstrong, and he said he would not. He worked with my dad for 20 years or more with the Dallas Stars. I know Doug. And he said he wouldn't have made that move if Jim Montgomery hadn't become available. So it's not like the Blues are an embarrassment, but they're 5 points out of the playoffs as it stands today. And the first job Montgomery got after being fired by the Dallas Stars and coming out of rehab was as an assistant coach with the St. Louis Blues. And then Boston nabbed him from there. So the Blues knew or know very well what they're getting. So, but I'll turn this around to a South Florida thing for a second. I saw a Panthers fan say this on the weekend with them firing Montgomery, the Bruins. A Panthers fan goes, I love that we broke the Boston Bruins. Because every year the Panthers beat the Bruins in the playoffs, and every year the Panthers win. And I want to ask you, George, who's that one city that Detroiters hate?
The Avalanche, Colorado?
Is that what it is? Any sport.
Well, yeah. I mean,
okay.
Going back to those great Stanley Cup finals and the rivalry between the two teams. Now it's more. I think the last 2 years have been more Pittsburgh because they just hate Lemieux here in Detroit. And Pittsburgh won the cup, as you know, on Detroit's ice, and fans will never let that one go.
Yeah. Okay. Did you hate Lemieux or Crosby?
No, did I say Lemieux? I meant Crosby. I'm sorry if I said Lemieux. Yeah.
All good.
Yeah.
Well, Penman just notated that Crosby hit the 600 goal. Just wanted to point that out.
Well, no question. He's a great player. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as the move is concerned, I think it's a home run for St. Louis. I really do. Another Boston Bruins coach bites the dust and gets snapped up. I mean, really. All you have to do is look at Cassidy. Bruce Cassidy, let him go. How did it work out in Vegas? Guess what? Bruce Cassidy will be in Vegas immortality. That's what you're
Yeah.
looking at there. I mean, won their first Stanley Cup, did it in a short period of time. St. Louis has a Stanley Cup. Jim Montgomery doesn't have to go into as big a pressure cooker in St. Louis compared to what you have out in Boston. Anytime you go into an original six job, it's a pressure cooker. It just simply is because they've been around forever. And, you know, if you go to an original six team, there's nothing like the prestige of playing for one of the original franchise.
Well,
It just
not to call you guys old timers, other than to lump myself in the category of old timers. This statistically, the NHL coaching fraternity, it's the most volatile of the major four. We've talked about that on this show, right? NHL, NFL, NBA, MLB. The least stability is in the NHL. And the reason I bring up old timers, Wendell Clark's brother, Don Clark, was the coach of the junior hockey team, the Prince Albert Raiders, when I was the broadcaster. I was only 20 years old. And Don, Wendell's brother, said to me, "Why would you get into broadcasting? So little stability in that." And I said to him, "I might ask you the same thing, Don." And he was like, "Good point." And he never brought it up again. So I don't know, media or coaching, neither one, you know, is long term in some places.
Well, there's no question their turnover in the National Hockey League has been a lot higher, especially in recent years, as the demand goes to try to win. Bear in mind, you know, you have 32 teams, and now 16 only get in. Once upon a time, 16 out of 21 got in. That wasn't as big of a deal. So, you know, obviously the pressure is there. You got more stars trying to put people into building. And if you really want to take it a step further, the Montreal Canadiens haven't won a cup since 1993. Who would have thunk that? But that's just the reality.
Unbelievable. Yeah,
Right.
it really is.
So, all right, Candy, come on back on. We're going to close it out with a Miami topic. I know, you know, everybody wants to get going. Monday Night Football is out there, and I think we're on a path where people will be able to watch it. So, let me set the scene here in Miami again. In a 10-7, the Miami Hurricanes led 10-7. But here's a name to watch for in the upcoming NFL draft. His name is Mish Powell. He had a pick six that went 76 yards to give Miami a 17-7 lead. And Candy's going to play you yet another soundbite. You know, I think he's a bona fide NFL prospect. You never know. Canadian Football League could end up there too. But Candy, tell the audience the body language that Mish Powell gave me before we run this clip.
Well, you'll see it in the clip, but I just want you also to know that he was named ACC Defensive Back of the Week. That was announced earlier today. So in Miami's 42-14 win over Wake Forest, he notched his career best 5th interception of the season, running the pick back 76 yards for a touchdown. His interception return is the longest by a Hurricane since Cam Kitchens, who is in the NFL as well, went 99 yards to the house against Georgia Tech on November 12, 2022. So he is he's a very humble young man, very, very, very well spoken. You want me to play the clip?
Go right ahead. He's a 6-year senior, by the way. He got some experience. Go ahead, play the clip.
Yeah. Hey, Bish, I'm watching you return that pick six, and you know what? You pull anything like that over at the NFL scouting combine, you're going to be playing for somebody. How did it feel for you that as you had that run in full speed, the excitement of being able to get a pick six at a time when the team really needed it? And this is a good way, you know, there are a lot of scouts here in the press box that are watching you make it look like this, and you're getting quality film time in addition to the road to a national championship.
Right, you know, I just say that's all credit to God, you know, him just putting me in a sense like a moment like that, you know, where guys are watching, you're saying scouts are watching, fans are watching. You know, I think the biggest thing is my mom, my dad, my sister, they got to watch that. You know, that's the big thing for me, them being able to see that. And I would say, yeah, all glory to God, and, you know, just it was just great to be able to put that on display. You know, I can't really hear the fans when I'm running. It sounds like, you know, you don't really hear a lot when you're running, but, you know, I just made sure I didn't get caught. You know, we got a lot of fast guys in Florida, so if they would have saw me get caught, they wouldn't let me live it down. So I just made sure I didn't get caught.
All right. First of all, he was pointing at me. He knew I was chopping to say something. A few people ahead of me. Then he's pointing at me. And then when he left the conference, he patted me on the back. We pretty much it was a great feeling when he ended up leaving. So here's the thing, you talk about a 6-year senior, it's all about transferring these days, D-Lows, and that's what happens. So,
part of the reason he's a 6-year senior too had to do with COVID years and being eligible to play for longer, because that's what they did, is they extended a lot of them because they didn't have a regular season during the COVID years. So a lot of them were extended another year of eligibility. So that's partly why.
Okay, Blows, the closest only way I can answer your question is I've talked to Xavier Restrepo, and it's on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. You can see all the interviews we had there. I had a great one on the pro day. So, Rob, what are your thoughts about Mish Powell?
I don't I don't really have any, to be honest. I'm just excited to see what happens in this college football playoff. I will say this. I got a lot of Hurricanes friends that are fans, Hurricane fan friends, and they say the committee hates the Hurricanes. But there's no way they can be denied being in the 12, is there?
No way. I don't think so.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Especially it's continued to drop out of the picture. The Hurricanes are going to get in there.
Yeah, the loss 2 weeks ago. I like what you said about they got the taste of it and they didn't like it. It was probably end up being a good thing, but they're just a very talented team. Clearly the best team in Florida, college team, and I'm just excited to see how it plays out. And making plays on both sides of the ball. I love it. And now the Dolphins fans are getting excited too. So who saw this coming?
Well, I made a comment to one of the PR guys at the Canes. We got the best football team that plays in this stadium on Saturday, not Sunday. And the guy was laughing. He said, I'm glad that we have you here, Scott. You're fun to work with. He's a super nice guy. George, some thoughts about Mish Powell.
Well, he wears number 1 on his back, but he is far from a 0 in my book. He is a stud. Yeah. What's he got? 8 or 9 career interceptions. He took it all the way for the touchdown, like you described. The kids, you know what? I don't even buy any kind of criticism from anybody. And I know you're putting things up there, comments from folks, but come on, if a kid wants to stay that long, and like you said, Candy, and Scott, with the COVID virus and the extension of one's college career, I got no problem with that at all. I'm a big supporter of kids staying in school, getting their education and all that. I know it's not the common thing nowadays. These kids come out early, but man, I give him a lot of credit. I think that was a magnificent interception and run back. And obviously, like you said, Scott, in your question to him, a lot of scouts are watching this kid right now. You better damn well believe they are. And he's going to play in the NFL one day.
Well, let me tell you, when I'm sitting in the press box, Candy, I'll tell you this right off the bat, I'm always looking at the seating chart, right, Candy, to see how many scouts are there. So I'm always curious to see what you have. Miami's no matter what you want to say, whether they've had some tough years in recent years, that doesn't matter. I mean, they're always going to get players drafted. This year, they're certainly going to have a lot more pros coming out of there. But
for sure,
all right, let's go to a comment that Pensman made, and I really like this one. Thursday Thanksgiving football is horrible this year. All right, well, you know what? He probably might be right. Chicago and Detroit, the Bears are the bottom, but they always play the Lions tough on Thanksgiving. The New York Giants and Dallas, well, sometimes at Thanksgiving when they're set up, you're going to get those type of matchups as well. But don't tell that to Candy Ebling, though. She's looking forward to Green Bay hosting a Thanksgiving against the Miami Dolphins. So,
wait, let's talk a little bit about this. The Bears are going to be playing Detroit. The Bears are starting to play better football. They almost beat the Vikings yesterday. Now, Giants and Dallas, they're both having bad years. So really, is it going to be a bad game if it's two bad football teams playing against each other? Yeah, maybe. And then the Dolphins are on a 3-game winning streak. They're going to go into Green Bay. Green Bay is 7-3. And mind you, they're third in the division at 7-3. Third in that division. They would be beating most other divisions. But because our division is so tough with Detroit at 9-1, Minnesota's at 8-2. Packers are at 7-3. So,
I don't buy that either, Candy. Right, you're spot on. No, you really could never say that on Thanksgiving Day. We know we've gone to it. Yeah, go ahead.
NFC North the Norris division always plays each other tough, no matter if they're having a bad year or not.
Yep,
So
they
I
sure
think
do.
it could be interesting games.
And the
There are a
Lions,
lot of other Thursday night games that have been barn burners. Not.
well, yeah, and I was going to say the Lions have lost 7 in a row, I believe, on Thanksgiving, so they got a lot to play for. But the Bears, don't kid yourself, they're going to come out fully loaded, and like you said, they've been playing better lately. Williams, and I think the middle game is the one that really seems to be a dog. Both teams without their starting quarterbacks, if you will, that they started the season with. But the Green Bay game is going to be a great game at night too. So I think they're pretty good games myself.
All right, of the comments Blows puts up there, this one intrigues me. What are your thoughts on Dylan Gabriel? He was a UCF guy. He's playing for the number 1 team in the country. He has a punch of chance to make the pros. We'll see how he does over at the scouting combine. We'll find out from there. Too early to tell, but doesn't hurt when you're playing for a top tier program. With that said, we're about ready to wrap up the Sports Exchange tonight. So with that said, Candy, why don't you let everybody, you can take it over from here, Candy.
Well, your host of this program wrote a book, and it was published by the South Florida Tribune Publishing Company. It's called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. Mr. George Eichhorn wrote the foreword, and Mr. Scott, Motor City Madmouth, wrote the book. It talks about his 40-plus years in the media business and how it has changed, old school media versus new school media. He has some great stories in there. Get your copy today. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Google, Kindle, Apple Books. There's a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Buy it for a gift. And then you can also get gifts from our merchandise store, which is also on our website. And all 3 of these fine gentlemen, they all write for us on the South Florida Tribune website. So it's www.southfloridatribune.com. If you have any show ideas, you can always email us, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Typically on Mondays, we talk baseball. Tuesday nights, football. Wednesday nights on Sports Exchange and Thursday nights on Fire Up. You never know what we're going to be talking about, although we are taking this week off in honor of Thanksgiving because we want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. But Thursday nights, we also talk on Fire Up Florida hockey. That would be Rod and Scott talking hockey. But we moved that to this tonight. So we're doing a combination show tonight. What else is there? If you want to advertise or sponsor a show, call Scott 954-304-4941. George, how can people get a hold of you?
Well, yeah, I write for the South Florida Tribune under the Motor City Tribune, and you can drill down my columns. I have a book out there called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air, and Scott's in the book, and I'm in the book, but more importantly, guys like Ernie Harwell, Ray Lane, Van Patrick, Bob Reynolds. I mean, the list goes on and on. Bud Lynch, Ken Kell. Anyways, great announcers we've been able to have here in Detroit. Super guys. And order your copy of the book. You can reach me at Yahoo at gicorn@yahoo.com, on Twitter or X at SandGSports99. Follow me on LinkedIn as well, and also on Instagram. So glad to be part of these great shows, and thank you for having me on. And it's great to be back on, Scott, especially with you too, Rod, because we haven't hooked up too much lately. But good to be on here and talking some hockey.
Yeah, just a footnote for Rod Peterson, everybody. He's going to be rotating back and forth to the Sports Exchange. This is a step up for him a couple times a month. And he'll also have Fire Up Florida. I think Rod's earned the opportunity to go on our signature show a couple times a month. It'll give him a little bit more mobility to talk about other things on top of what his specialty is. And, of course, we'll still keep our eyes on Florida as well. And, of course, I don't mind talking Florida topics in the Sports Exchange, but it'll open up Rod's ability to become more diversified in the United States. He's earned this opportunity, take this step up, and I enjoy working with Rod. He's a class act, and I'm so delighted we have him on this show. But that said, Rod, now you know some news that you didn't know, but you do know it now. Well earned, well deserved. So now let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Very kind of you, Scott. Thank you very much. And George, great seeing you as always. I could listen to you talk all day. Follow me at Rod Peterson. The name is on the screen. I'm live daily, noon to 2 on the Game Plus television network, Monday to Friday. It can also be watched on YouTube. Love being on the South Florida Tribune podcast. And also my wife and I do the Cats and Bolts podcast, where we focus on the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. There's a link to it in my column on the South Florida Tribune. It's called the Cats and Bolts podcast. So we're all busy people, but not too busy to get together on these shows.
Well done, Rod. I want to thank everybody's participation in the chat room. Lowe's, obviously, Joshua Dor, D. Lowe's, Pensman, and the rest goes on and on. We appreciate your participation. We do the best we can to get as many of your comments up there. But tonight, talk a little bit about Thanksgiving, but more importantly, some of the most interesting topics in hockey. My goal is anytime we put a subject on here to be different that you won't find in anybody else. I guess when you've been in the business 45 years, you want to know that you look for different types of things. And that's what I strive for on this platform and anything that I work on. So with that said, we want to thank Candy Ebling for coming on as well. George Eichhorn, well done. Happy Thanksgiving to you, George. Also, a happy Thanksgiving to you, Rod and Serena. Look forward to seeing you guys again really soon. And where you're going to go eat at Ruth Chris's, more power to you. And of course, I want to thank everybody else for joining us on behalf of Candy, George, and Rod. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Badmouth. Thank you for joining us on this Monday edition of the Sports Exchange. And we will be on Inside the Pigskin tomorrow night, talking football. Great lineup tomorrow night. So I hope you can join us on the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network / YouTube channel. Good night, everybody, and happy Thanksgiving, and eat the food, but more importantly, be safe. Bye now.
Enjoy,
family.